Today we are going to be cooking a new sliced beef item that we have here on our main menu at the new restaurant. When people talk about the magic of barbecue, mostly they're talking about transforming these cheap cuts, breaking them down to something that's succulent and delicious over long periods of cooking. We do that obviously with brisket, with beef cheeks. We do that with our flat iron. We're going to do something similar to that with a cut called a chuck, or a chuck steak specifically. We're going to take a whole chuck roll, which is part of the shoulder of the beef. The beef shoulder is made up of two kind of subprimals. One is called the chuck and one is called the clod. And the clod is where we get the flat iron. It's where we get our beef butts for chopped beef. And the chuck is right next to the ribeye. It's actually an extension of that ribeye muscle. And we're going to cut it into steaks. We're going to season it. We're going to grill it. We're going to hit it with this mop sauce. We're going to slice it up. And it's going to be beautiful and delicious. It's chuck steak. Slap the meat. So this is our chuck roll, what we call it, a boneless chuck roll. If you think about a pork butt and you know what the money muscle is, or the copa muscle of the pork butt, that's essentially what this is on a beef. You can kind of see this. This is kind of that ribeye muscle I was talking about, extension. You can see where the kind of rib pieces were, where those backbone pieces were. So we're going to try to cut into this without marring it. And then just open her up. Now, on these, we're not doing too much trimming. Normally, barbecue involves a lot of trimming beforehand. We trim so we can make it easier on the block so we don't waste time on the block. The chuck, a lot of the trim that we're doing is post-cook. So we'll have the chuck steak on the block. It'll be cooked, and you'll see this later. And we'll have to cut around some fat or some sinew and kind of like slice those things really nicely, because this is not a ribeye. It is not a tenderloin. It is a chuck steak. So it's not as tender as the most typical steaks that you get in a steakhouse. No, you're not gonna come here and order this for, I think it's like $38 a pound, and get what you would at a steakhouse, like a ribeye or a tenderloin or a strip or something like that. It's got a little bit of toothsomeness to it, but it's really, really tasty. It's more like a cowboy cut. It's just a great steak. Like I was talking about before, kind of see that pretty much looks like a ribeye. And that is kind of this kind of main muscle right there as it goes down through there. That's really what we're after. Like I said, not doing too much trimming on this piece before, but what we are gonna do is tie it off, tie it into steaks. I'm gonna show you guys a little method here. Butcher's knot. We're gonna go one kind of facing us here, got two fingers. We're gonna wrap that around, then open it up and put it through that little hole. And then this is going to stay nice and tight for us. Ooh, oh. I just hit myself in the balls. Oh my God, dude. Oh. Oh.
Take two.
Take two! Let's try this again. Butcher's knot. I'm gonna tighten it so hard. So the trick about this knot is that it stays cinched. You see that I'm not holding it, but it stays nice and cinched until you tie another knot on there to secure it. We're trying to make these just a couple inches wide, maybe 1 to 2 inches wide. We're just going to cut right in between these butcher's twines.
How'd you find out about this cut?
So we were really trying everything on the animal before the restaurant opened to see what was the best combination of, you know, cheap cut or something on the animal that's less expensive that was really good. We also wanted to have something like a long cooking item and a quick cooking item. So this is kind of our quick cooking item. So we are able to fire off more if we're running low. And it kind of has like, almost like a backyard steak feel, like something like your dad would make or something like that, you know what I mean? Okay, just a couple more here. Looks like a nice little roast. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chuck steaks here. We've got 6 chuck steaks here. Before I cut them, I just want to make sure that the twine is like nice and even here. So I'm just going to kind of slightly adjust, but I think all these look really good. If you see this nice marbled piece right here, that's kind of coming off the chuck short rib or a Denver steak there. All right, now we're just going to cut the steaks. So this is that first one off the ribeye, and this is probably the best one on the roll, the chuck roll. So as I said, kind of that's that ribeye muscle. There it is again. That's going to be a really nice steak. As you move down the chuck roll, they look a little bit less like that. They start to get a little bit more fat in them. But the good news is you've got all this nicely marbled piece in there too. So it's multiple muscles, just like a good brisket. There's another one of those. Another one. Another one. And then this last one, it's a little bit thick. I'm just going to kind of try to face it and just have a nice flat edge for us to cook. These look really good. I'm going to kind of trim this up a little bit. That piece is like hanging off there. We're pretty much ready to season these and get them rolling on the direct pit. Okay, we're gonna take one from that end that looked really good, almost like a ribeye. Then we're gonna take one from kind of the middle that's nice and meaty. And I'm gonna leave the rest of these for service in a few days. We've got our beef rub here, chuck and clawed, flat iron rub. Has a few more ingredients than just our standard Dalmatian with salt and pepper. This has some garlic powder, some onion powder, some paprika, and some MSG. So just a little bit extra seasoning. And just like anything we're ever seasoning here, we're gonna be pretty aggressive, pretty heavy with it. Don't forget the sides, that would be a rookie move. Pat it in, all around, then we'll get this guy going. These are pretty much ready to go on. Let's go put them on the direct pit, chud box. So we're gonna put these on this direct pit. It is pretty hot. It's almost 400 degrees right now. We wanna cook these pretty hot, like a steak. I know we're gonna grill them in a little bit, but we wanna render quickly some of the juices and then have that drip down on the coals and smoke and season and flavor everything. I like cooking these on the direct pit because they have a different flavor than something on the offset pit. The offset pit, smoke comes from burning wood. The direct pit, the smoke comes from fat and juices dripping on the coals, vaporizing, and then that's a completely different flavor of smoke. So while we are out here, I'm going to take some of the coals from this burn barrel, start our wood fire grill inside. Try to take all these coals that I can, get a nice rager going. We'll let this come up, let this fire start. By the time those chuck steaks come off, they'll be ready to grill. Now we're gonna make a mop sauce to kind of baste them with as they grill. It's good practice whenever you're cooking something on the direct pit to have some sort of mop sauce, some sort of thin, flavorful sauce that you can use to both season and flavor the meat that you're cooking, but as well, the liquid is going to the same way when you spritz a brisket, it brings down the exterior temperature through evaporative cooling of the piece of meat so it doesn't char on the outside. It just keeps everything nice and moist while also helping to control the heat and how hot that it's cooking. We went in with 2 pounds of butter. Bottle of cheap red wine. In this case, it's LeRoy, the 2019 Thomas Cuisine. Smells good. We're just gonna boil this up for a little while to try to cook out some of the wine taste. Also got some Worcestershire sauce, 1 quart, some Frank's Red Hot, 1 quart, and some beef stock. Just gonna bring this to a simmer, melt that butter, cook off a little bit of the wine, and we got our mop sauce. Okay, we're about to see how these are looking. Have not been on for very long, but they have definitely started cooking. Look at that little bubbly right there. That's exactly what we want. I don't think they're gonna have a really good crust right now, but it will be a good time to turn them and see what they look like. I think that's exactly what we want to be looking for. I'm just gonna go ahead and hit them with this. I know they're nowhere near where we need to be, but we're getting nice and close. Making sure when I probe them and temp them that I'm not going directly into a pocket of fat. I want to go into a pocket of muscle. So we're about 80 degrees on the inside on that one, 80 degrees on the inside on that one. So they're moving along pretty fast. Come back in a few. We're gonna see where these chuck steaks are at. They look great. Now we're gonna let them rest a little bit before we hit them on the grill. All right there. Right there, 130. Yeah, here's our nice mop sauce. Smells like beefy buffalo. Rich, a little bit vinegary. Okay, we're ready to grill these babies up. Rest it for just a minute or so. So we're basically doing a reverse sear on these. We want to bring them up to temp slowly so it's cooked nice and evenly all the way through. And then we're going to sear it for extra flavor, extra caramelization. It's basically the long and short of it. Give it a little base before we flip. Well, there's butter in the mop. So a little bit of that butter came down, hit the fire, and then made sure that it, like some of the flame kind of came up. A little bit of flame licking the outside is really nice. Want to make sure we get good adherence. Also gives it a little bit of extra seasoning, a little bit of acidity. We're also going to rest these in the chuck mop. So after I pull these off and put them back in this tray, we're going to pour a little bit of that juice in there so they just sit in there. Then when we slice it, we're going to dip it in that juice again. Ready for the flip, the reveal, the big reveal. This one really got good marks on it. This one did not. It's not completely flat. Just from the fact that the chucks have different muscles within them, you can see that the twine around here made like this slightly concave. So it didn't get as good of a sear on this one. But this one just looks fantastic. Pretty much it. Now we let them rest. And that was, I mean, that's less than an hour altogether for some really good steaks, really good barbecue. This is a fantastic little weeknight guy. Great way to get a lot of value out of a pretty cheap cut. A lot of people just grind this up. Ground chuck, or they'll braise it. Let's take it out here to rest. This is our chuck steak. Butchered, smoked on the direct pit, grilled, rested in the chuck mop, and then ready to cut now. So remember what I was saying, that we kind of do some butchery on the block. What I'm going to do right now, I see a big band of fat right here. I'm just going to try to take that piece like out. Nice, really nice cook on it. And I'm just going to kind of start cutting this way. Fatty. There's a good piece. nice and thin on this guy. So there's a good amount of this stuff that's going to be nice looking steak, and there's some of this that's not going to be great looking steak, like this kind of fatty piece right there. I'm going to kind of trim out that piece. I'm going to trim out that little kind of sinewy piece. See that? That's not too good to eat right there, but the piece next to it is. So there's a good amount of like trimming on the block that we have to do with these chuck steaks. I think it's the only downfall to them. They do taste delicious. That one's pretty much all fat on the back, but we got like that piece ready. Yeah, so we can kind of put this into our Italian beef. We take all of our sliced beef scraps and then put it with some beef jus and then JPG giardiniera. And then we make a nice little Italian beef sandwich with it. Then we have this whole other piece here, which is really nice, except I think this is going to be all fat on that piece. So we'll start from like right these guys, they all look really good. I'm gonna kind of shingle those, cut those in half, kind of shingle these guys too. So we've got a few pieces to dunk in our mop sauce. So we'll take these guys, just kind of swish them and swirl them around until they're nice and juicy. Set that down. Beautiful, juicy, delicious. This is the chuck steak, probably a little bit more than a half pound of it right here. You saw us butcher it, season it, smoke it, grill it, make the mop sauce, mop it up, slice it up. Looks fantastic. Sometimes you don't need adornments or accoutrement. You just need some really good red meat in your life. That is so good. Wow. I'll take a pound, please. I mean, if we're talking about $36 for a pound of that, and then that's about a half pound, that's way more than anybody could eat. For 18 bucks, that's a hell of a deal. Locally sourced, butchered in-house. Can't get this anywhere else at any other barbecue place. Let's try to take things that are kind of familiar, kind of new, reimagine how we're cooking barbecue. Delicious. There's something about steak that hits different than barbecue too. Barbecue is just like almost overly too intense sometimes. And steak just like, it's almost more primal. It's more caveman-esque. It's more, and I love it. You can get it at the brick and mortar. We have it every day of the week. It's on the Pitmaster platter. We cook them, we usually do like a morning round and an evening round, so we usually have it. It's really good stuff. See you here.